Hi, good evening. My name is Mike Weir, and we'll be together for the next 8 weeks in BUAD 564, Human Capital Management. I want to take a few moments tonight before we start to kind of introduce myself, give you guys some ground rules and some goals for the course. Let's start off with the easy part, who I am. Uh, I've tell you a little bit. I'll give you my quick and dirty elevator speech, and it's an elevator speech, I guess, if you're going to the tallest building in the world, because it's more than 3 minutes. But anyway, I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I went to undergraduate at Penn State. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing. I went to Penn State on a Navy ROTC scholarship, and upon graduation, I spent 20 years in the Navy. I originally, my scholarship called for a 4 year obligation, and I loved it and stayed. Retired from the Navy in 1989. And while I was in the Navy, I had the opportunity to get both a master's in business administration, and I also received a master's in public health at the University of Missouri, which was my last duty station in the Navy. I taught at the ROTC there. After that, I went into uh, healthcare. Physician practice management was my specialty. I worked in both in independently owned physician practices and hospital owned physician practices. If I had to say what my skill set was in business, it was trying to be entrepreneurial in nature and look at revenue enhancement. Revenue enhancement comes in three flavors, I think. One is finding new business. Two is generating more revenue. And three, and I always think most important, reducing costs. So I did that in for 23 years. Then I went out and did some consulting work for about 4 years for a company called B.E. Smith out of Kansas, and went to hospitals and physician practices, and again used my skill sets that I developed over the time I was in practice. And finally semi-retired and taught here in Long Island, where I'm currently at. And now I'm teaching for Mary Baldwin, and extremely excited. Um, Personal wise, as you can see, I've been around the block. If you look on LinkedIn, if you're a LinkedIn fan, I have my resume on there. You can read that and see how wonderful I think I am. Have you ever seen anybody write a bad resume? I didn't do so well in that job. No, it's always good. So mine is too. I spend half the time, a little better than half the time, up here in Long Island, and my wife and I moved, have a place in Wilmington, North Carolina, which we get away from the harsh Northeast winters. So that's who I am. Uh, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy taking theory to practice. I think lots of times in classrooms, and having been in lots of classrooms, tremendous readings, tremendous theory. But when you get out in the business world, in the healthcare world, sometimes it's a little different. I always remember my first boss was a guy in a southeast Missouri, and he was started off life as a radiation technician, an X-ray tech, and went. The company sent him to school to get his bachelor's degree in accounting, and then they made him the assistant administrator and then the administrator of the practice. He thought that it was a great thing to bring an assistant administrator in from a master's program, groom them for 2 or 3 years, know that they were going to leave, and they brought in a pretty strong academic background, and he would kind of complement that with his practice experience. And I always remember whenever we had a problem, he'd stand at the door of my office and look at me and say, "I bet you they didn't teach you that when you were in graduate school, did they?" And in most cases, it was absolutely true. We didn't learn about that. So I'm going to try to transition that gap a little bit in this class. Uh, if you're in a business program or you're anywhere alive today, you know that we all talk about mission statements. What's the mission? Um, I critically believe in mission statements. I believe it's a guide of where you should go and how you should do it. So I kind of cobbled together a little mission statement for our course. Um, what I want to do is give you an exposition to healthcare human resources. When I was in graduate school for my MHA, my master's in public health, that we had a capstone course that was taught by the director of the program. And I'll paint the picture for you. I was a commander in the Navy. I was fairly senior. I had some very challenging jobs in the Navy. I worked with congressmen. I worked with admirals. I've moved in some fairly high circles and moved in some grunt circles too. But anyway, I thought I was pretty confident, and after 20 years in the Navy, and so I'm sitting in the back of class, and in the front of class was some of the students who were just undergrads to grads, and we also had a cohort of students that were going back to get their master's degree, and we kind of sat in the back of the class and thought we were cool. But anyway, uh, the director, his name was Gordon Brown. Gordon says, if you haven't worked with doctors before, if you haven't worked in the medical field, it's unique. It's different. The people are not like you expect or you have experienced in other places. And I sat back there with my feet propped up and said, "Yeah, this guy doesn't know me. I'm the guy that has been around heavy hitters, big people. The giants of at least of the Navy industry. And what difference are doctors?" Graduated, went out to my first practice, and worked there for about a year, year and a half. And at the University of Missouri, we'd have a fall festival. We called it, but it was a fall seminar. And one of the things that Dr. Brown did is he brought back 5 or 6 fresh graduates and had a seminar for the students and that were still there. And I was luckily to be invited back. And I remember the first words out of my mouth were, "Listen to what Dr. Brown has to say, because working with physicians is a completely unique experience." So when we talk about medical HR in the healthcare arena, I'm sure you've had an HR course somewhere in your travels, or you've been in HR. It's significantly different, and the first of all the mission of healthcare, and then the people that are applying that mission are significantly different. So we're going to talk a lot about that in the course. The next thing I want is my mission statement is I want you to develop a critical thinking skill, a curiosity, a whole outlook of how you look at life. I at one time was thinking about becoming an attorney, and I went to interview with the dean of a law school, and he said, attorneys, everybody thinks that we all the laws, Brown versus the Board of Education and this. He said, we're really trying to teach you in law school is a different way to think. And I want to just, for these 8 weeks, have you examine your thought process and develop this idea of critical thinking. Uh, it's easy when you're writing a paper to go and get 17 citations and kind of cobble them all to put them all together. But I want you to examine it. I guess the example I'll give you is in the discussion boards, we'll read something and then somebody will say, what we really need is we need more money spent into a particular healthcare program. We need more money for vaccinations. We need more money for education. And with this training, we'll make everything wonderful again. And my question right away is, who's going to pay for it? What's the cost of it? Are there any other alternatives to do it? What's the feasibility of even getting it done? And so I think when you attack a problem, you want to start laying out a logical source, a logical step for you on how you're going to attack a problem. And one of those is being very critical and looking at it. We always hear this idea of out of the box, think out of the box. I'm not too sure what the box is and how it's there, but what I want you to do is look at all sides of the problem and look at solutions that you're proposing. And everything has pluses and minuses. One of my thoughts that I have always in life is decisions were easy. We wouldn't get paid. We managers wouldn't get paid a lot of money to make them. So if the decision is you can have no food for 6 weeks and all we feed you is oatmeal in the morning, Or you can have a regular great diet for 6 weeks. Which do you pick? Well, that's not a decision, That's pretty easy to figure out. So what decisions are is first of all dealing with making reaching a conclusion with imperfect information. It's not all laid out like it is in a case study sometimes. You have to figure out and have some unknowns. You have to figure risk, how much risk you want to take, and you have to figure out what are the alternatives. And so when I look at your papers, look at your discussion boards, those are kind of questions I'm going to ask you. And hopefully by the end of the course, you'll be answering before I ask them. And I guess my final part of my mission statement is I want to model the actions in this course to be as close to real life as possible and kind of move it out of academics a little bit. I know that's blasphemy in an academic organization, but uh, the last time I wrote a 60-page paper was in graduate school. In business, I write short, compact stuff. I want to make sure that it's power packed. I want to make sure we don't waste a lot of time. And I want to make sure that I can convey my ideas to upper chain of command. I treat people with respect. I also have a code of honor that I live by in my business, and that's what most great business people do, and that's kind of what I want to expect from you. So let's kind of, with that mission statement, that strategy here, let's get down to some tactical thoughts about the course. Uh, One is communication. Uh, this is a non-traditional course for lots of people that are not been online before or been online and not really thought about it. I'm used to teaching on ground students where I come in and we spend an hour, hour and a half, and we communicate back and forth, back and forth. I throw out an idea, somebody challenges it, we all discuss it and move. Tough to do here online because it's all asynchronous. You write something and then I write something after it, then you write back and somebody else in the group writes in. So we have to be really strong in our communication. A subset of that is you have to meet your deadlines. Uh, we don't want, if you haven't participated in the discussion board until Sunday night, you're not doing very much. The second is I in my entire career, both in all my business and in the Navy, I believe in this concept of adult to adult leadership. Uh, there was a book, I'm okay, you're okay. It's called Transactional Relationships, and it was written back in the 70s, I think. And it talks about how we can deal with people, and one is a parent to adult, and that's where you do this or I'll kill you kind of thing. And the other is child to child, where let's see what we can get away with. And then the parent to parent is logical, smooth professionalism, and that's what I like to see. I'm not going to play gotcha with you, and I don't want you to play gotcha with me. First of all, I've been around the block. If you think you have a story that you will fly that's maybe a little uh, shaky, I've probably used it already and know it. Uh, I Both of the times I've gotten my master's degree, I've worked at the same time. I understand the uh, burdens of family, social life, working, and going to school. And sometimes you have to establish priorities, and school is not. I'm foolish to think that school is your primary priority. Uh, so if there's going to be a problem, let me know. Just like you do in the business world. My boss says I want something in by Thursday, and Tuesday I know it's not going to happen. Tuesday I'll go in and talk to him and say, here's why it's not going to happen. Here's my plan to recover. I'm not going to wait until Thursday morning at 9 o'clock when it's due and walk in and say, oh, the dog ate my homework. And that's what I expect from you. If you are have an assignment and you're having trouble with it, you don't understand it, or you have to go to the PTA meeting and somebody's in the hospital, all the good things that can happen to you. Drop me a line right away and let me know what's happening and what your plan to recover is. I expect that, and I'll expect it in this course, and I expect it in real life. I sometimes tell students that when I look at students in courses, I think, would I ever hire that person? And the person who comes in Thursday morning and says the dog ate my homework, probably not. please don't give me a half-baked effort. We're all adults here. If you can't get it done in time, tell me you can't get it done, and you're going to make it better. But just don't throw some stuff on a paper and expect me to or you, to read it and you to generate a bunch of junk. I'd rather have quality work. Uh, I have in all the papers 3 to 5 pages for. I'm not counting numbers. I'm not counting, how many keystrokes. They're guidance. If you can get the paper done in 2.5 pages, I'm fine with that. If it's a 3 page minimum. Uh, but that means it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Don't just drop off the world at the end, or don't uh, make sure that the what you're submitting, you're proud to put your name on. And if you are, and it's under 3 pages, or fine. I kind of put a 5 page on because a lot of these things you could just ramble forever. So please try not to do that. My final thing is proofread. Uh, I am the king of last minute. That's my whenever you have the interview and they say, "What are some of your weaknesses?" I tell them I'm the king of last minute, and sometimes you may be also, uh, but you have to have 2 minutes before the last minute to proofread it. I received a paper last semester where they were pasting stuff in, and they double pasted it, and they didn't even notice it. So they had a paragraph, and the next paragraph was the same as the one above. I mean, exactly the same. Uh, it was obvious that the person never even looked at it once they got it together. One of my other rules at life is I used to work and go to school, so some nights I'd be writing papers at 1 o'clock in the morning that were due the next day. Remember the king of last minute. Uh, and I proofread them, and at 2:30 in the morning, they seemed like the next greatest Nobel Prize winning paper. 3 o'clock before when I got them at work and I was getting ready to hand them in, probably not so much. So try not to be the king of last minute. Uh, so that's kind of my guidance for the course. A couple other things I want to talk about. I have the ability to live chat, and what I like to do is set up a live chat time, and it's kind of a no harm, no foul time. So if you're reading something you don't understand, I say something in a lecture you don't understand, uh, you can come in on a live chat and we can talk back and forth in real time. Uh, I set them up usually for an hour, one night a week, probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I think that's probably the best time unless you work nights. And if you do, let me know. If there's a particular time that's horribly bad for you, uh, just drop me an email and say, I work from 8 to 2 in the morning, so I can't do this. But we'll and the live chat is absolutely voluntary. If you don't show up, I really don't care. It's not graded. I don't tell secrets that here's the question 3, here's the answer to it because you showed up. It's just some time we can communicate. I have a 10-minute rule, so if if the live chat starts at 8 o'clock, if by 8:10 nobody's on the line, by 8:11 I'm not on the line anymore either. I used to set it up for an hour and sit there for an hour and look at the screen. So be there in the first 10 minutes or let me know. Finally, and I guess the most important thing is uh, my job is to do the best by you. My job I look at is to prepare you in the best possible way for graduation and jobs in the future. My time is, and I'm paid to make that happen. So don't feel, oh, geez, I won't ask them this. They'll think I'm stupid. Or the only stupid question is the stupid person who doesn't ask it. Uh, the easiest way to get a hold of me is email. I have one of these super duper phones that when you email me, it pops right up. I the university or Mary Baldwin's policy is that we deal by email, uh, but you have my phone number and it's textable. If there's something that you really need, like I need to talk to you right this minute, but I probably try to check my email 3 times a day. I try to respond in the same hour period. So if you text me at 9 o'clock, if you email me, excuse me, at 9 o'clock in the morning, I try to get to you before noon, uh, noon to 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock on. Um, so I'm always available. If you have a problem, let me know. We can arrange for a phone conversation. We can arrange for a online text, so an online chat session. So there's lots of opportunities. Don't drown for lack of establishing good communication. So that's probably about it. Uh, you probably won't see me in face to face anymore. I'll use slides and I'll be talking in the background. But again, if you need to touch base, please get do it. I'm looking forward to this next 8 weeks. As time goes by, we'll be finishing up right before Christmas. So get your Christmas shopping done and in between all these good things. Again, name number Mike Weir, 919-208-3939, and MW Weir at marybaldwin.edu. Talk to you later.